Right now, as we're speaking, by the way, the U.S. House is voting against Representative Thomas Massey's amendment that would cut U.S. military aid to Israel. 103 Democrats have voted in favor of Thomas Massey's amendment. 98 of them have voted against it. Some of the more high-profile Democrats that have openly mentioned they would be voting against this are, of course, Hakeem Jeffries. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries told colleagues Tuesday that he will vote against an amendment to strip $3.3 billion in annual U.S. military aid to Israel, and said Democratic leadership would not whip the vote, leaving members free to vote their conscience rather than follow a party line. The amendment introduced by Republican Representative Thomas Massey would bar funds in the State Department Appropriations Bill from being spent for Israel, effectively blocking the foreign military financing provided under the 2016 U.S.-Israel Memorandum of Understanding. This is the Obama MOU, $3.3 billion yearly for the next decade, right? This is the last year that the MOU, after this year, the MOU expires. In a letter to colleagues obtained by Dropsite, Jeffries called the amendment overly broad, saying it would also hit humanitarian aid and refugee resettlement while restricting efforts to confront Hamas, Hezbollah, and other organizations. He cited J Street's opposition to the amendment, explaining his position. Jeffries wrote that American policy in the Middle East must change, but that the U.S. commitment to Israel must remain ironclad, and any future agreement should preserve Israel's qualitative military edge. The Democratic leader's stance runs against his party base. A May 2026 New York Times Siena poll found that 74% of Democrats oppose providing more economic and military aid to support Israel, while only 20% supported doing so. To Hakeem Jeffries, I say,
what gives?
But of course, Hakeem Jeffries' retaliation probably is
Israel comes to me in my dreams.
J Street said Tuesday it would support Democrats regardless of whether they voted yes or no or present, calling the amendment overboard, but acknowledging that the vote presented a rare opportunity for lawmakers to register opposition to continue U.S. military aid to Israel. This is purely symbolic. And the reason for why it's unfortunately purely symbolic is because there is enough votes, as always, both from the Democrats and the Republicans, to continue giving $3.3 billion to Israel. Here are some of the pro-Israel Democrats being pressed on voting against their base by Dropsite's Julian himself.
Closely in line with my leader.
And what about with your base?
Look, I fight terrorism. That's what...
Is the IDF committing terrorism by bombing civilian infrastructure and committing war crimes?
Dropsite's Julian Andreoni here. Democratic leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, has put out a statement saying he's going to vote no on Thomas Massey's amendment to cut all military aid to Israel. But 74% of Democratic voters, per the latest New York Times poll, support cutting all economic assistance to Israel. I wanted to come up here and ask pro-Israel Democrats who are facing contested primaries where they stand in this fight. Are they with their base or are they with Democratic leadership in D.C.? Let's see what they had to say.
Leader Jeffries came out and said that he's not going to support cutting the military aid to Israel, but 74% of the Democratic voting base supports cutting off all economic ties with Israel. You're going to side with Leader Jeffries or the voting base on that?
I'm with Leader Jeffries on this one.
You're going to vote against the Massey's amendment?
Yes.
And why are you going to go against 74% of the base?
Look at Mr. Jeffries' statement. He's very articulate about his positions. Look, we got to fight terrorism. And what happened on October 7th is not acceptable. And we got to keep fighting. And
what about what happened before October 7th? Do you recognize the Nakba?
Eliminate terrorism all across the world.
All right, thanks.
All right. I'm a no on the amendment.
Do you think it's out of lockstep with where the base is?
I wouldn't vote for anything that Thomas Massey puts forward at the moment, especially after he ran an ad with a Jewish star in it, which was universally condemned as anti-Semitic.
Oh, that's why. Got it. Not because you're a fucking unbelievable dick eater of Israel. Remember, he's of course, he is a Ron DeSantis Democrat. Openly has mentioned that he is to the right of the current Republican Party at times when it comes to dealing with American foreign policy. Yeah, Sri Tanadar obviously is also going to be primaried, inshallah.
So if he were to put forth the Epstein Files Transparency Act again, you would have voted against it?
That was with Ro Khanna. I voted on that.
So
Oliver Larkin is running against Jared Moskowitz.
he had a Democratic-
Donovan McKinney is running against Sri Tanadar, who we just saw.
Jewish star in it, which was universally condemned as anti-Semitic.
So if he were to put forth the Epstein Files Transparency Act again, you would have voted against it?
That was with Ro Khanna. I voted on that.
So if he had a Democratic co-sponsor on something, you'd vote for it?
I wouldn't be helping Thomas Massey on anything.
Even the Epstein Files Transparency?
No, of course I'd vote for Epstein, and I voted for that, but that was also before he did that nonsense.
I believe it's in our national interest to have a liberal democracy in the Middle East, and I will not be voting on the Massey Amendment.
You believe Israel's a democracy?
I believe it's the only liberal democracy in the Middle East.
Are there any other democracies that orient citizenship and rights based on ethnicity, race, or nationality? I mean, there are laws that, for instance, the law that just passed in the Knesset that gives Palestinian prisoners different punishments than Israeli prisoners.
Are these people bots? Yes, they are. They are the reason why people see the Democratic Party as controlled opposition. Okay? Because we are. The Democrats are controlled opposition because there are hundreds of Democrats in Congress that are first and foremost invested in defending Israel and defending Israel's interests. And there is no way in hell that they would actually do the bidding of their constituents. And they are servants of the state of Israel. That's it. And they're not just servants of the state of Israel, they're servants of the highest bidder, right? And obviously, Israel pays well. That's it.
I mean, is that a democratic system?
Would you want there's a hot debate in Israel right now about what things look like moving forward.
Yeah.
But I believe it's in our national interest.
And if you're wondering why we don't get to, if you're wondering why no change happens, these people are bought and paid for. And if you're wondering why no change happens, I mean, look at Haley Stevens. Haley Stevens also, I believe, voted no. Okay. Haley Stevens is currently running for Senate against Abdul El-Sayed in the state of Michigan. Okay. If you're wondering why these people get away, with their lack of interest in abiding by the overwhelming majority of their base of support, well, the reason why they get away with it is because of what's taking place in the Senate race in Michigan in the primaries. Haley Stevens has gotten $50 million in outside expenditures. I believe 30 to 40 million of that right now is coming from AIPAC and AIPAC shell corporations, shell packs. That's it. They dupe the base. They take advantage of the loose or lack of restrictions on how much outside money could be spent in these races. And they lie and they smear. And there's obviously a network internally. There's obviously a network of Democratic consultants and pliant media operatives that will go along with this slander campaign and will do everything in their power to make sure that people are duped, that people are not paying attention. And if people are paying attention, hopefully they will learn something awful about a candidate that will stand against corporate PACs like Abdul El-Sayed, and they'll vote against Abdul El-Sayed. That's exactly how this goes. That's exactly how this works. Breaking, a majority of Democrats in the House have just voted to cut $3.3 billion a year in U.S. military aid to Israel. Representative Thomas Massey, the leader of the amendment, was the only Republican in support. If one more person shows me Chuck Schumer farting in the Senate, I'm going to fucking end the broadcast. Okay? Please stop. I don't give a shit. Okay? I know he farted while he was delivering a speech. You guys are fucking literally children, dude. Holy shit. Shut the fuck up. Oh my God. Oh my God, we'll get to it, okay? Fuck, man. I can't even have a serious conversation about like the way that moneyed interest operates in American politics and subverts democracy at the behest of a foreign nation state without motherfuckers being like, well, Chuck Schumer farted. Shut the fuck up.
So
Sherman on the Massey Amendment. If you care about not only our Middle East policy, but you care about the Democratic Party's position with the American people, then you must vote no on this amendment. This is an attack on the Israeli people, says Representative Brad Sherman. Another one of my fucking dumbass ops.
if you care
1 million from APAC.
about not only our Middle East policy, but you care about the Democratic Party's position with the American people, then you must vote no on this amendment. Now, that does not mean that there will not be future reductions in our aid to Israel. That does not mean that we will not try to change Israeli policy. But this amendment goes as far as it possibly can to put us on the side not of those who would shoot down the missiles that are aimed at civilian neighborhoods in Israel, but on those who are cheering those missiles. And then we're told that the amount of money involved is the focus. This is $3.3 billion, but that is about an 80th of the aid that we have provided Ukraine and that we should have provided Ukraine. So this is not an attempt to divert a large portion of our money from Israel. This is an attack on the Israeli people, and I yield to the gentlelady from Florida.
These people are disgusting, dude. They're disgusting. They're enemies of the American people. It doesn't matter if they are Democrats. It doesn't matter if they're Republicans. I mean, the damn near entirety of the Republican Party is on board with this. And a big chunk of Democrats are also on board with the continuation of $3.3 billion. The only reason why Hakeem Jeffries didn't whip the votes for it is because he knows it's going to pass anyway. Okay? In a normal situation, if the Democrats were like a real party and they cared about the needs of their base, if democracy was real in this fucking country, then Hakeem Jeffries would be whipping votes in favor of Thomas Massey's amendment. Okay? The entirety of the Democratic Party would respond together collectively to say, yes, we're voting for this amendment. We're going to make sure that we cut the $3.3 billion in money that we're spending to Israel. 74% of our base wants this. Okay? 74%. It's insane to me. Yes, 30 years of hurt has now expanded to 60 years of hurt. It's now going to be 64 years of hurt. Okay? Calm down, guys. It's not coming home. Vargentina won. If you're wondering how these people could be so out of step with the demands of their base, 74% want. 74% want to cut off aid to Israel. Look no further than the $50 million dumped into the Michigan Senate race where Abdul is running against an AIPAC stooge. I assume Haley Stevens voted in favor of this, right? Or voted against this, right? I would be shocked if she voted. I'd be shocked if she voted yes on the Massey Amendment. The roll call isn't updated yet. It's not available, but someone must have watched it live, right? Yeah. I mean, Adam Johnson also points to this, but it's a fairly obvious point. Everyone knows when you're the most electable, you need $30 million in AIPAC money to win a primary. The more AIPACs Republican donors inject into your Democratic primary campaign, the more widespread, organic, and enthusiastic your general election appeal is. It's just common sense. Everything I don't like is AIPAC, An Idiot's Guide to Politics. AIPAC has literally spent $30 million, and this guy goes, oh, why are you pointing out to AIPAC? I don't know what to tell you, but acting as if it's acknowledging this material reality is delusion is objectively insane. There's no way for you to see it yet. Roll call is not available yet, but I assume on C-SPAN, if someone was watching, they probably saw Haley Stevens vote no. Updated roll call, she voted no. Well, it's shocking.
Israel comes to me in my dreams.
That she voted no on that. Yeah, she voted no. There it is. Right? This is the right one, right? Yeah. Status failed. No, this is January 22nd, dude. This is not the correct. Wait, is this the right one? This is a different one. The fuck? No, it's roll 243, not 43. Congress had another opportunity to block our taxpayer dollars from enabling Israel's crimes. While our movement grows, we cannot keep funding suffering abroad while telling workers' families we cannot afford quality health care, housing, or education, says Summer Lee. Yeah. Roll call is not available. So unless you go into C-SPAN, the live footage from C-SPAN, you're not going to be able to figure out. You're not going to be able to figure out whether or not. Doors open. Yeah, the roll call is not published yet. So I don't know why people are saying Haley Stevens definitely voted no, unless they saw it, unless they were watching C-SPAN and tracking it. We're not going to know yet. More Democrats either didn't vote for or voted no, 98, or present, 10, on cutting all aid to Israel than Democrats that voted yes. That said, it is a seismic shift in U.S. foreign policy. 48% of the Democratic caucus, Massey was the lone Republican yes. What was interesting is Pelosi actually voted yes. Nancy Pelosi says she will vote yes on the Massey amendment to withhold aid from Israel. This is obviously symbolic. But Nancy Pelosi understands which way the winds are blowing. Okay? This is important to recognize. It's important to understand that Nancy Pelosi, as Speaker Emerita, one of the most impactful Democrats in Congress, recognizes which way the room temperature is shifting and is moving along with it. She has all the power to just, she's out after this season. She has literally nothing to lose. If she wanted to basically say, look, I want to continue funding Israel, it's very important, then she would have voted yes on this. Or, I mean, she would have voted no on the Massey Amendment. It's really interesting because Hakeem Jeffries is Nancy Pelosi's hand-selected candidate to run the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives. Today, the Massey Amendment presents an unfortunate choice to the House. As one who is committed to a strong U.S.-Israel relationship and supportive of a two-state solution, I respect Leader Jeffries' decisive proposal to achieve a just and lasting peace. The United States must be a force for security and stability. The American people are rightly demanding an end to perpetual cycle of war, and the Netanyahu government cannot maintain its current course. Therefore, while this amendment is ill-conceived, I vote yes for the message that it sends. She knows it won't pass. If she was the lone deciding vote, of course she would vote in favor of it. She's always been very savvy politically. It's a PR move, but it's still one that signifies something changing. I'm just saying, it's still obviously dog shit, and I need you guys to understand this doesn't mean anything, and that's precisely the reason why these guys even have the level of comfort to vote no, for the most part, with the exception of like Summerlee, AOC, Ro Khanna, people like that. Like all of the other 100 Democrats that voted yes, voted in favor of the Thomas Massey Amendment, that in the past have never taken a significant position against Israel, are doing so because they want the benefits of it. Which means that the environment has shifted dramatically in our to the side of truth, to the side of justice, at least amongst the base. That means there's such a tremendous amount of appetite for someone to actually tell Israel to fuck off that 100 Democrats voted. I need you to understand, in comparison to where we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where we were 10 years ago, this is unfathomable. This is an unfathomable seismic shift. Seismic shift that still is utterly meaningless in the grand scheme of things, because obviously the amendment was struck down because there's always enough votes. Just this morning, people were expecting 40 Democrat votes when we actually got 100. That's movement, but not enough. Yes, and there will always be spoilers. Hakeem Jeffries will ensure that there's always spoilers regardless. So what we have to do is mathematically make it impossible for them. Okay? So we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go. Obviously, half of the Democrats are still bought and paid for by Israel. Half of the Democrats are still bought and paid for in general. Why did the Republicans vote no? What do you mean? They're fucking dogs. Why are you not teaching at Streamer University? Because it's Streamer University every day in here where I'm teaching you geopolitical crises that are taking place all around the world. In any case, like I said, 74% of Democrat voters, 74% of Democratic Party voters want to cut off aid to Israel. The fact that only half of the Democrats are comfortable with that is still devastating. What does any of this have to do with socialism? You're right, buddy. You're right. Fuck the Palestinians, right? Who cares about American foreign policy in the MENA region? Who cares about all the Iranians dying, all the Lebanese people dying, all the death and destruction that's taking place? Are they all socialists? Good bait. Good bait. Thank you. On Seamus and Dylan Saba's podcast, Matt Petty said that the Republican base is where the Dems were 5 years ago, but the trend line suggests that most Americans will be opposed to Israel over the coming years. Quite a departure from being ignorant to foreign policy. Yes. Yes. But it's good. The sign of positivity here is that Foreign policy is no longer seen as a separate thing. For the longest time, and it's not separate. Foreign policy and domestic policy are tied to one another. American experiences here are impacted by our foreign policy over there. But for the longest time, Americans did not make that connection. Now they are. Israel and the attitude shift against Israel has played a major role in this. Okay? Americans are more in tune with APAC. They're more aware of corporate PAC expenditures, more aware of a foreign policy apparatus, a foreign country's influence on American elections. This is a good thing. It's a positive change. Obviously, we're not there yet, and we have to keep pushing. And it's incredibly important that we have to keep pushing. What do you think that triggered that shift? 9/11? No, October 7 triggered that shift. Even with 9/11, Americans, by and large, were in support of the global war on terror. And it took 20 years for them to recognize that it was an abject failure. And then a lot of money was spent on it. That money could have been spent on healthcare, for example. But even then, they weren't angry enough. Whereas now, with the level of frustration that is mounted against not only America's this unbelievable illusion that America has with this foreign country, Israel, but its direct impact on domestic concerns has frustrated Americans and have made Americans realize that foreign policy and domestic policy is inseparable. All the money that we're spending overseas could be spent here instead. Okay? This is a good thing. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. Everything that the government is doing, everything that the Democrats are doing to control the situation is obviously another hurdle that we have to fight back against, but always be cognizant of the fact that we have the people, okay? And that's part of the reason why we can't let up. We can't feel discouraged. We can't be nihilistic. We can't lean into like idiotic black-pilled narratives that change is not happening fast enough, okay? Roll call is up for the recorded vote for the Massey amendment. Let's see what Stevens did. Wait, it's not. It's in the no's. Yeah, Stevens also voted no. There you go. Unsurprising. Expected. I don't think that's accurate. How are there 421 no's? Yeah, I don't know why they're... Yeah, it says 211 Democratic no's. I don't think that's correct. It might be... Yeah, this might not be accurate. Oh, this makes more sense. There you go. Republicans on the no side. All Republicans, with the exception of Thomas Massey, voted no. 98 Democrats voted no as well. And there was one independent that also voted no. Yeah, Stevens is on the no column, obviously. Moskowitz is as well, as you can see right here. Gottheimer will also be a no. There it is. Expected. These are all expected no's. On the yes, you have Gravalha. Let's see if there's anything interesting here. Khanna, Lee, of course, expected. Thomas Massey, it's his own amendment. Look to see if your congressperson is on the I column. Interesting that Jake Auchincloss was in the I column. That's interesting. DeGette voted I. That's also interesting. It's just like probably should have had that energy beforehand before you got taken out, but you know, I'll take it. Part of the reason is because these are all the Congressional Progressive Caucus members. So, unlike Hakeem Jeffries, Greg Kazar was telling the Congressional Progressive Caucus, I believe, to vote yes on this. Where is Sanders? Dog, this is the House of Representatives. What are you talking about? Bernie Sanders is in the Senate, the upper chamber of Congress. Yeah, 108 targets acquired for DSA. Straight up. I agree. Jamie Raskin voted yes. Isn't he pro-Israel? No, Jamie Raskin's pretty woke. I don't know if push came to shove, if he was the deciding vote. I don't know how he would vote, but I mean, he's pro-Israel in the same way that most of these guys are, but he's fairly woke regardless of his pro-Israel position. He's a little bit like Nadler. He's like Nadler. They're definitely better than the mean when it comes to Israel, but they're still, pro-Israel, of course. Wesley Bell in the nose. Yeah, I mean, that's unsurprising. Again, AIPAC stooge Wesley Bell running against the incumbent that Cori Bush will defeat, inshallah. Wesley Bell would not be occupying the seat that he's currently occupying in Missouri if it wasn't for AIPAC. Anyway, if you're surprised that your congressperson voted aye, understand that they know that the vote doesn't have impact. They just want to make a statement. But it's still valuable that they're making such a strong statement against Israel. It would be far stronger if this was a real vote. But,
matters above all else, which is power, and I agree with you, is where is this power coming from? For me,
let's get back
from my perspective,
to
it's
our
coming from the
talk.
ability of the United States, after the demise of the Bretton Woods system, to recycle other people's money, profits, capital, and then, of course, China. So once it started recycling Chinese profits, then you had, in the 1990s and the noughties, you had globalization, you had the Wall Street bankers going absolutely berserk, and so on. So up until now, the capacity of the United States to recycle other people's surpluses has been going hand in hand with its capacity to project military power, not just in the Gulf, but everywhere, all over the world. And here is where I think our paths converge, because you heard a few weeks ago, during this war in Iran, Scott Bessent announced that he was giving a $20 billion swap line to the Gulf states, which is, it sounds absolutely crazy, ridiculous. I mean, the Gulf states, between them, they have around $6.5–7 trillion of dollars of assets, of reserves, of liquidity. Why do they need $20 billion from Scott Bessent? My interpretation, John, is that Scott Bessent was not bailing out the UAE or Saudi Arabia or Bahrain. No, he was signaling to the markets that, guys, I know that you're worried that we are going to lose around $2.5 trillion in the next 18 months of money surpluses from the Gulf states that would be coming towards Wall Street. It's not coming. I am prepared to step in and to make up the difference. And I don't think he can, because the Fed has a capacity, as it proved in 2008, 2009, to provide these swap lines ad infinitum. Scott Bessent, the Treasury, cannot. He has a very, very tight budget. So there you are. So I hope that this intrigues you as an idea of how to enhance your power analysis and the reasons why this war may prove, unlike all the other wars, a bridge too far for the United States hegemony.
Just one very quick point, then I'll turn it over to Katie. I think that you and I agree completely that military might has an economic foundation, and it's really the economic foundation that matters the most. And what you're saying, I hear, is that despite the military defeat in Vietnam, the United States was doing things at the economic level that, if anything, made it stronger. And that's why military defeat did not matter. I agree completely with that.
It actually helped.
It helped. No,
it actually helped.
It was a force multiplier. That's your argument. And I agree with that. But it also seems that what you're saying is that the situation may be different now. In other words, as a result of the Iraq war, we have done things to the health of the American economy that are going to damage our position moving forward.
Indeed, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that, look, Donald Trump, in his first year in office now, during Trump 2.0, he secured commitments from the Gulf states of about 3.7 trillion over the next 18 months. 2 trillion would go to AI investments, data centers and all that in the United States, not in the Gulf, and 1.7 trillion armaments. Now, Scott Bessent knows that this money is not coming now because of the liquidity problems that the Gulf states have. Dubai hotels are almost empty. Natural gas and oil doesn't flow like it did. All bets are off regarding that 3.7 trillion that was going to arrive in Wall Street to keep recycling other people's money, other people's Gulf state capital through the markets of the United States, and to finance, importantly, much of that money would be purchasing treasuries, would be financing the American military. The American government, as well as equities, as well as real estate. So, unlike all the other wars, none of the previous wars did anything to damage that recycling mechanism. That is my point.
But what would you say to the argument that actually, if you look at what Trump is doing today, he's being motivated, or he is motivated by economic considerations, right? That he knows he has to put an end to this war because it's going to do enormous damage if it continues to America's economic position in the world, to the world economy. And he's in a very important way sort of accepting your logic at a very general level, and he's backpedaling like crazy to do everything he can to restore the status quo ante.
Are you saying Trump is a Gianist?
Can you repeat that, please?
Oh, I was joking. I was saying, are you saying Trump is a Gianist or a Varoufakisian? Yeah.
Not in the slightest. What I'm saying is that, Scott Bessent is a smart man. He didn't break the Bank of England together with George Soros because he was a Dumkov, right? And I would not be at all surprised if he had a word with the president and said to him, Donald, we are running a very serious risk in the markets because we're going to lose 2 trillion in the next 18 months that will not be recycled through Wall Street. So stop this war now. So essentially what John is saying is exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
And you said at the beginning, Giannis, that you thought that Trump had a lot of good intuitions, that he was not completely a Dumkov. That's why you were saying you thought that you didn't believe that he bought Netanyahu's rhetoric about toppling the regime with air power alone.
Well, I love the man, but I do not suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. I read what Stephen Miran says. I pay very close attention to Scott Bessent, to his economic team, and they have a plan. And you know what, John and Katie? Their plan has been working until Iran. They won everything. The tariff war was a complete, utter success story. Don't listen to economists whose models, have a spasm when when you throw tariffs at them. The tariff war against the European Union was won by Trump. He had Ursula von der Leyen on her knees in his golf club in Scotland, accepting new tariffs being slapped on European manufacturing exports to the United States, while the European Union was taking down every single little tariff that it had on American exports and offering him something that was not in her gift to offer. Remember, Ursula von der Leyen promised him that by the end of 2028, Europe would invest 700 billion in the United States. Ursula von der Leyen doesn't have that money. She can't direct, BASF and Rheinmetall or whoever to invest this money in the United States. So he was winning. With China, he didn't win that war, but very, very quickly he stepped back, he retreated. He had a bromance with President Xi. They're going to meet again, and there's going to be a détente. There is a détente when it comes to the tariff war. But he is earning 300 billion every year from his tariffs. Everything he's been doing has been working until Iran. And I still insist that he was pushed into this. He didn't choose to dive into it.
Giannis, just to put Katie's question to you in slightly different words, aren't you basically saying that there's not much daylight between you and President Trump in terms of thinking about how the world operates?
Well, you see, there is a very well-known distinction between how the world operates and how I think it should operate, the normative and the descriptive. Right. I think that the world we live in, the world that shaped the so-called globalization, the so-called rules-based order, my goodness, I lose the will to live when I hear that expression. But, that's the world that Richard Nixon created in 1971. And it is clear to me that Trump's people I don't know what he knows and what he thinks and how smart he is. He doesn't look particularly smart to me. But yeah, then again, Richard Nixon was a madman. And yet he shaped through the Nixon shock with John Connolly, with Paul Volcker, with Kissinger, with all these people. They shaped the world that we live in. And this is how I understand the world. I understand the world in that context. So from his perspective, what he's trying to do, what his team is trying to do, is trying to maintain the advantages that deficits have bestowed upon the United States ever since the Nixon shock. I
mean, Giannis's theory is that Trump knows what he's doing. Or at least the people around Trump know what they're doing. And they're trying to restructure the international markets in a way that benefits the United States, because finance capitalism is no longer benefiting the United States as much, I guess. What is this? The reporter at Dropsite News thinks is liable to quote Hassan verbatim because it makes him look bad. Yes, this is the American Enterprise Institute guy. He's not a centrist. He's a right-winger. The statement is written on that flyer. Hassan did not say Jews are inbreds as verbatim as you assert. The flyer was publicly disseminated. It is immensely damaging to Hassan's reputation to claim that he said people belonging to a specific religion are all inbred. Yeah, I mean, Cuomo did the same nonsense too. I don't know how much I trust the Hormuz letter on potential boots on the ground, for the record, you know. Trump is looking to expand U.S. military operations in Iran by not only bombing energy sites and power plants starting next week, but also sending U.S. ground forces to fully seize Karg Island and other Iranian islands along the Strait of Hormuz and bombing the deepest and most fortified mountain in Iran, the Pickaxe Mountain. He said those things. Trump held a Situation Room meeting Tuesday evening to discuss the seizure of Karg Island and other territory along the strait using U.S. ground troops, including Abu Musa, Greater Tunb, and Lesser Tunb. He also said, we're going to take out Pickaxe Mountain. He can't do any of those things. Like, unless he wants to throw U.S. Look. The reason why he hasn't done it thus far is because obviously there's a level of military action that Trump is comfortable with. We know what that level is. Okay? The level of military action that Trump is comfortable with is air campaigns, decapitation strikes, quick and rapid action. This is a unique situation because he hasn't been able to achieve any of his military objectives. He hasn't been able to restrain Iran. He hasn't been able to successfully attrit Iran's strike capabilities. So it's just continuing. So he might get erratic. He might actually do something crazy that he hasn't done before. But so far, Trump has obviously been very restrained when it comes to putting boots on the ground. Here's the issue. American troops that he puts on any of those Iranian islands are going to get fucking lasered. Okay? They're going to get lasered. So if we're currently bleeding and there's no way to, through air campaigns, stop Iran from controlling the Strait of Hormuz, trying to gain leverage with this suicide mission is going to be the dumbest decision that Trump has made thus far in a series of unbelievably dumb decisions. Because if you recall, one thing that I've said since day one, since the beginning of Operation Epic Fury, is that the reason why Americans are not out in the streets and freaking out over this is because there hasn't been any significant damage that we can see, that we can visualize to American naval assets. They've been able to paper over a lot of the damage to say, oh, it's fine. It's like laundry fire here and there. And the most consequential act was when the F-35 fighter jet flew over during a bombing mission, and the Iranian air defenses took it out. That was a huge panic moment for the American side. Now, if America tried to militarily invade any of the island chains off of the Iranian coastline, they would get pummeled with Iranian ballistic munitions. There is no air support there. There is no way that you can establish a forward operating base. Even if the American military could fairly easily take over Karg Island with conventional arms and defeat the Iranians stationed on Karg Island with their conventional arms and conventional tools, which is fairly easy process, there is no way that they would be able to establish a forward operating base on Karg Island without the Iranians destroying it and killing every single troop on that forward operating base. This is a big penalty. This is far too large of a penalty that the Trump administration would take on. Unless he's just completely lost his mind, I don't expect Donald Trump to put boots on the ground. Okay? But let's say, what is, Kaya's back, knocking on the door. Let's say that, wait, hold on. I need to, Kaya! I don't know if you can see her shadow. She keeps pawing at the door. But what was I saying? Oh, let's say they're able to conventionally defeat through conventional means, defeat the Iranian military on Karg Island, fairly easy. Let's say through some stroke of good luck, they were able to set up a forward operating base, and let's say they're capable of defending it. Oh shit! Jesus Christ, that scared the shit out of me. Okay, maybe let her in. Okay, I'll let her in. Anyway, as I was saying, even if America was able to establish a forward operating base on Karg Island, what is this? The RGA scheduled to go with a new ad, attack ad? Oh shit, I'm in another attack ad. Let's go. Fuck. Even if the United States of America and the military was capable of establishing a forward operating base on Karg Island, they have no way of maintaining any kind of supply line because all of the bases, the American bases that are close enough to Karg Island have been reduced to rubble and are within striking distance. They're within striking distance of Iran, which is precisely the reason why they can't even establish a supply line. So it's over. There's no way to do it. Anyway, we're obviously going to get to the drama, both in the Wisconsin race and also drama taking shape in the